going on, everybody? It's Mr. Do It All. I'm doing two videos today. As you all saw, we did the first one, which was Minnesota versus Pittsburgh. In this video, we're going to talk about Kansas City and Philadelphia. Now, this is the fourth big matchup of the week to me. Why? Kansas City went ahead and blew out New England. In New England, I mean, that doesn't happen very often. New England has the best home record since 2000. And Kansas City went up in there and hung 42 up on them. A rookie running back ran for 200, not ran, but he had 250 scrimmage yards. It was just a complete domination. They made New England's defense look terrible. I know New England has some injuries, but they made New England's defense look bad. Tom Brady was inaccurate. But Kansas City came out. Alex Smith protected the football. He made big plays. Kadeem Hunt came in and ran hard for Spencer Ware. They weren't even expecting to use him like that, but Spencer Ware got hurt and went ahead. And Kadeem Hunt went out there and balled out. On the flip side, Philadelphia beat Washington. The scoreboard was, I think it was it 30-17? I'm not sure, but the score was not as close as it indicated. Philadelphia thoroughly beat Washington. That defensive line is nasty, led by Fletcher Cox. That guy's a great defensive tackle, especially since he gets to thrive in a 4-3 as a 3-tech. That defense did, however, lose Ronald Darby. They traded for him about a couple weeks before the season started for Jordan Matthews. They lost him to a dislocated ankle, which I believe the timetable was 4 to 6 weeks. That's a tough blow, especially a team that's pretty thin at secondary, in the secondary to me. But Carson Wentz took care of the football just enough. He took care of it enough. He made some big plays, finding his receivers, especially considering that last year I think he had the least amount of air yards last season, and he was airing it out a little bit this week. He had over 300 yards, and he made a couple of big plays there. But the key story for that game was that defense, getting pressure on Kirk Cousins, forcing Kirk Cousins to do what he does best, and that's turn the ball over. Now, let's talk about this matchup here. Now, let's go ahead and talk about Kansas City's defense versus Philadelphia's offense. Now, Kansas City did lose Eric Berry this past week on that Thursday night game to a torn ACL, which is very it's a tough loss, plain and simple. Eric Berry is the heart and soul of that defense, and losing a player of his caliber is very hard, especially considering everything that he's done to come back over the last couple seasons. But this team is okay. They're going to be okay. They should still be able to get a wild card berth, a playoff berth, maybe even win the division. That offense looks completely different with Alex Smith actually throwing the ball down the field and not being Alex Smith of old, which is 5 yards, 5-yard passes. Now, where I think they're gonna have a little bit of where I think Kansas City might have a little bit of trouble against Philadelphia's offense might be at that's tough. Might be that offensive line versus that defensive front. That might be the weakest position because Marcus Peters, Philadelphia doesn't have a true number one in my eyes. Alshon Jeffrey is a good receiver, but he's not a number one to me. If he's your number two, you have a very solid team. If he's your number one, you should probably look for a number one receiver. No disrespect to Alshon Jeffrey, but Marcus Peters can lock down his side of the field. Why I think that the front seven of Kansas City will have trouble versus Philadelphia's offensive line is Philadelphia has probably one of the best offensive lines in football as well. Jason Peters and Lane Johnson as your tackles. And on the inside, they're pretty tough. As long as Philadelphia can stick with the run and not give it up, keep play action hope alive, they can win this game. Now, however, Justin Houston is a beast. Dee Ford's a beast. These are guys that I expect to find a way to get pressure. Carson Wentz does tend to hold the ball a little longer than most coaches would like. He does that on rare occasions, but he still does it. So that could, especially when you're playing schoolyard bullshit type of football where you're running around and receivers are trying to get open, anything can happen, strip sacks, things like that. Now on the flip side, where I think Kansas City will have trouble versus Philadelphia's defense is going to be their front four, just their front four. That front four can create pressure, just by straight pass rushing. Playing New England's a different beast than playing this Philadelphia defensive line, which is one of the best. They probably have the best offensive defensive line combinations in football. But I think they'll be able to hold their own. Kadeem Hunt's not going to have a monster game like he had last week. I don't think he will. Philadelphia plays the run really well. It's going to come down to Alex Smith making big plays, finding his receivers, finding Tyreek Hill, finding Travis Kelce, those type of guys underneath. Where Carson Wentz on the flip side is going to have to find Zach Ertz. Derek Barry's not going to be able to take that tight end out the play now. Marcus Peters going to have his hands full with Alshon Jeffrey and whoever else they line up against him. So it's just going to come down to the quarterback play in this game. And I think that Kansas City has the best chance to win this game because they have a quarterback that's pretty much seen it all with Alex Smith. And he's a guy that can take the offense. He can manage the game very well. He manages the game very well. I know the game manager label is tossed around to average quarterbacks, I guess you can say, but Alex Smith is a very good quarterback, probably underrated. I know there was talk this in the preseason where Patrick Mahomes was gonna unseat him, but he shut those down with that game one play. Now, some of the key matchups, like I've said, is gonna be those two matchups, and the third key matchup is gonna be Kansas City running game versus that Philadelphia defense. If Kadeem Hunt can use his speed and get to the outside barrier, or even just manage to keep getting 5 yards of carry, which is possible, but it's tough running against this defense, Kansas City will win this game. Now, my prediction for this game, I'm going to give it to Kansas City. Why? A little bit more seasoned, experienced. It's going to be a close game. I'm going to go 24 to 17. Kansas City will find a way to create a couple turnovers. They'll get a little bit more sacks. And we'll be talking about why Kansas City is not talked about as one of the elite teams in football. That's just what I think. Now, the 3 reasons why each team will win. 3 reasons why Kansas City will win. They'll be able to get pressure and create turnovers on Carson Wentz. They'll be able to run the ball effectively, which is 5 yards of carry, but they'll be able to stick with it to be able to use Alex Smith on those bootlegs that he likes to use, hitting Kelce, hitting Tyreek Hill. And the third reason why they'll win is because Andy Reid, Doug Peterson's pretty much running Andy Reid's offense. It's the same offense, hypothetically. So, 3 reasons why Philadelphia won't win. They force Kansas City to abandon the run, like straight up. Like 10 carries into the game, they're like, no more running. We have to pass the ball. Carson Wentz does not turn the ball over once, which is a tough task against this defense. But if Carson Wentz is turnover free, they will win this game. And finally, being able to same thing on both sides. Being able to run the ball effectively. That's just plain and simple what it is. Using LeGarrette Blount, using Darren Sproles, using whoever they need to use to run the ball. Keeping Kansas City's defense out there so you can wear them out in the fourth quarter with LeGarrette Blount, who's a downhill runner, who's a thumper. So, my prediction is still 24-17 Kansas City. That'll do it. Make sure to check out the other videos for this week that I have previewed. Be greatly appreciated. And I'm out. Peace.